Hi everyone, welcome to channel that shares knowledge about comprehensive personal development through good books. In 1857, writer Gustave Flaubert was prosecuted for the affair he wrote in his work Madame Bovary, because the work was considered offensive to public morality and religion in France. After his lawyer reported him, he was acquitted of the event, which caused a big stir in public opinion at the time, making people seek out his novel, and it quickly became the best-selling book of that year. Until 2007, it was still second on the list of the 10 greatest novels of all time chosen by Times magazine, and to this day, many people still borrow it as a story to remind themselves. The main character of the novel, Emma, also known as Mrs. B, is the wife of Dr. Charles Bovary, a husband who loves her deeply, but she always dreams of having a romantic love affair. Emma had 2 love affairs while she was married and in debt. In the end, she had no choice but to buy a dose of arsenic and end her life. Emma's play is sad and also a warning to wake us up sometimes. Unhappiness in life is actually in the happiness that we still pursue, happiness that we do not know how to cherish and preserve. Today, I want to share with you a content called, Don't Stay in Happiness but Still Try to Find Happiness, through the novel Madame Bovary. Madame Bovary, loving unhappiness is living in happiness without knowing you are happy. Emma was born into a rich farming family, raised by her father as a noble girl. She was sent to study at a convent school until the age of 18. Here, she was given full training in dancing, playing the piano, painting, and embroidery instead of studying catechism. After leaving school, Emma only kept a romantic soul, longing to find an ideal figure like the novels she used to secretly read when she was in school. But, love to her, was always like a pink feather floating in the sky, both within grasp and out of reach, making her feel sad. Until Dr. Charles Bovary came to her house to treat her father's wound. He fell in love with her at first sight. Soon, the two married and Emma became Mrs. Bovary. But, after a short period of sweetness, she discovered that married life was very different from the dream she had hoped for. She hoped that her husband would be more powerful and famous, but her husband's ability was limited. He was satisfied with his current financial ability and had no ambition to conquer a high mountain. She also hoped that her husband would be passionate and romantic, but he was so gentle and rough like a piece of wood. She longed for a richer and more prosperous life, but her mother-in-law's nagging made her have to be frugal, like a curse to her. Life was so boring, she was annoyed and difficult. It was as if she saw a pile of cobwebs with spiders crawling around in every corner of her heart that she couldn't do anything about. Until she was invited to the Marquis's ball, Emma was overwhelmed and ecstatic before the extremely luxurious and solemn scene. Suddenly, her uninteresting life was like a door opened for the bright sunlight to flood in. After seeing this light, she immediately could not bear the darkness, even for a moment. Having to endure life as it was now was Emma's darkness, making her feel guilty towards herself, so she needed to find every way to make life better as she wished. Emma urged her husband to do leg surgery for a disabled person, hoping that after this surgery, her husband would become famous and the whole family would be more prosperous and noble. But, unexpectedly, the surgeries failed, causing her husband to get a bad reputation. This completely crushed Emma's hopes. And her husband, Charles Bovary, then tried to go to all sorts of places to get medical treatment to make sure his wife did not have to worry about finances, and he always listened to her, followed her advice and took good care of her. But with this stable life, Emma felt extremely bored. She longed for a life of abundance and love, not a life of frugal food and being content with warmth with one another. She did not pay attention to her husband's emotional preferences, and turned a blind eye to the happiness within reach. Like many people in real life, she never appreciates the happiness that already existed in her life. You will see that there are many people who do not have to worry about food and clothing, but they always long to live in a nice house with luxurious clothes like everyone else. There are parents with obedient and healthy children, but they always compare them with other people's children, always feel that their children are not as good as expected, do not have the achievements they expected. There are employees who are doing stable jobs, get along with colleagues, but still dream of a bigger company with higher salaries without seeing the pressure and instability in that place. There are people who have a devoted lover, but are not satisfied because that person is not rich or has the same status as their friends' boyfriends. There are sincere friends, but just because they do not have the same social status as you, there is no need to maintain the relationship. There are children who take their parents' care for granted and are always grumpy before the care of their parents. Only when their parents are old or have passed away do they realize the preciousness of the previous moments. In life, there are too many people who look at the potted plant in front of the house, but always wrinkle their brows longing for the green willows and bright flowers outside the window. The ancient Roman poet Horace once said, "He who does not think himself happy will never enjoy happiness." Comparing blindly, or being dissatisfied with the present, not being grateful for what you have, will only cause happiness to go astray. Happiness is not about gazing at the vastness of the ocean or the distant stars in the sky, but about discovering the loveliness of the simple and ordinary things right before our eyes. Happiness is not complaining when others do not satisfy us, but the peace when we realize that we are enough. We do not lack happiness, we just lack the discovery and understanding that happiness has long been present in your own life. Only when you realize the value of what you have, know how to appreciate and find joy in the simple and familiar things, can you truly feel the meaning of happiness. Otherwise, happiness will forever be out of reach, when we live in happiness but keep running after another happiness that is far away, and this is actually the greatest unhappiness of life. The happiness that we all strive to achieve is just an illusion. Seeing his wife bored, Charles decided to change the environment and move to another place. Here, Emma met a man named Leon. Leon was a versatile and skilled person in behavior. He liked music, painting, literature, and chatting. He had a good rapport with Emma. The two began to interact frequently and exchange hidden feelings. Emma was secretly happy, thinking that she had found her soul mate. But Leon, then, for his future career, turned away and he left Paris. Life, that seemed bright after a long rain, was now covered with clouds. Until another person, Rodolphe, a 34-year-old farm owner, appeared. This rich, generous, and experienced man was immediately attracted by Emma's beauty, but also saw through the shallow frivolity in her personality. So, Rodolphe began to whisper sweet words into her ear, playing hard to catch and waiting for the fish to bite. Emma, obediently, approached. The two were stuck together, feeling why they could not have met sooner. Emma was also immersed in the pleasure of a secret affair. But she still did not feel enough, and took the initiative to suggest running away with Rodolphe. Rodolphe pretended to agree and delayed again and again, until the agreed date, leaving only a letter and then disappeared without a word. Emma was extremely miserable, and became seriously ill. But she was still taken care of by her devoted husband. Emma always longed for a passionate love to soothe her dry heart, and she had met Leon and then Rodolphe one after another. Each time, she thought she had found true love. But in the end, all was just an illusory dream. If the love with Leon was like a drop of water passing over a lotus leaf, then with Rodolphe, Emma had bet everything on it. Rodolphe, the man who understood her heart and was not afraid to be generous, seemed to be the ideal life partner that fate had bestowed upon her. For him, Emma was willing to block all ways back, abandoning her husband and children. But with a veteran in love like Rodolphe, all was just a game that had been arranged from the beginning. When the game became boring, he would easily retreat without any regret. In life, there are so many people like Emma, filled with illusions and expectations of a prospect of having someone better than their current partner. The ideal person must be someone with a tall, radiant appearance, whose job must be high-paying and bring pride. For Emma, he needed to be capable of making money while she could spend comfortably. His personality must be gentle. No matter how unreasonable she was, he could be patient and understand her feelings, even when she did not need to say it. For him, the ideal girl was beautiful, charming, dressed up, and saved face for him. She would also be good at housework, obedient, always praise and admire him, and so on. But, how to get such perfect people in imagination? Nowadays, many young people say that they do not dare to get married easily because they have not found the right person. The right person in their imagination is a perfect lover at 100%. A famous MC said that, in this world, there is no one who is completely suitable and perfect for you. If there is, that is definitely a psychological manipulator. If you suddenly meet someone who seems perfect and suitable for you, be very careful. There is no one like that. That person definitely has an ulterior motive when approaching you. Pursuing unrealistic illusions is no different than catching the moon under the water, picking the stars in the sky, or chasing after illusions in the desert of life. If you try your best to achieve something called perfection, it will end up being just a wasted effort. Because happiness does not come from the perfection of others, or from meeting our own expectations, but from maturity in awareness and appreciation of what we have. The most beautiful and meaningful feelings often do not come from what will come, but from the effort of understanding by both sides. Instead of constantly searching from the outside and placing expectations on others, we need to return to ourselves, learn to look at life with positivity and gratitude. When you stop setting unreasonable standards and start focusing on cultivating your inner values, you will realize that happiness is always in your hands, just needing an open heart to receive it. If you do not stop at the right time, you will push yourself into a bottomless abyss. Emma painfully blamed herself and decided to stop having illusions. But she thought she had woken up. Unexpectedly, she met Leon again after a long time apart, and once again, she fell into his arms. The two quickly melted into each other and immersed themselves in a passionate relationship. At first, they were sweet and infatuated, they loved each other to death and back to life. But then, time passed, boredom began to creep into the hearts of both of them. Emma tried to hold on to this increasingly fading relationship by spending a large amount of money she had inherited from Rodolphe before, which made Emma form a habit of indulging in pleasure, spending lavishly, and often buying expensive items. When she was with Leon, this habit became even worse. She spent money without hesitation just to get a smile from her lover. When she did not have enough money, she borrowed, took money from one place to make up for another, and even secretly sold the land inherited from her husband. Until one day, she received a court summons requiring her to pay the debt within 24 hours, otherwise all the property in the house would be confiscated. Seeing the huge debt, Emma really panicked. She asked Rodolphe for help, but he was helpless. She also went to Leon, but he had disappeared without a word. Emma was desperate and finally chose death by drinking poison. Meanwhile, her husband was worriedly searching for her everywhere. When he got home, he found his wife dead. Later, he also accidentally learned about all of his wife's secret relationships, but he did not blame her. And when facing Rodolphe, he became jealous of the love Emma had for him. The next day, Charles passed away, and the house was empty, with nothing left. And the poor daughter was left as an orphan with no place to rely on, and had to work to earn a living when she was just 9 years old. In this story, Emma blindly ran after love, was ready to pass through fire for her lover, and spent money lavishly. However, the end result was really too bitter. Both of her lovers left her in trouble. The truth is, if you love wholeheartedly just to have and satisfy your own desires, you will always receive a lesson with an even higher price. Swallowed by desire and lust, fate gave Emma many chances to awaken, but she did not know how to stop. The result was a tragedy, a harsh punishment, and a burden that fell on the shoulders of her young child. In life, everyone has desires, big and small, and sometimes these can become a motivation to move forward, but they should only be considered and adjusted with sobriety and self-control. If desire overwhelms you, loses all reason, acts blindly, satisfies it without principles and does not know how to stop to transform yourself, then this will always be a disaster. You will not only hurt yourself, but also cause pain to those around you. Shakespeare once said, "Desire is like a coal fire, if not cooled, it will burn the soul." A coal fire can only bring warmth and enough power to warm when we know how to control it and blow it properly. If we let it flare up uncontrollably, you will have nothing left but ash and pain. Therefore, the lesson of life is always about recognizing our own expectations and our own desires, then stopping at the right time, transforming them in time, mastering ourselves, and finding a healthy balance in life. Regarding material life or relationships, it is the same. By overcoming this lesson, you will have the key to step into a new door, where you can choose a life of peace, freedom, and meaning. Emma, or Mrs. Bovary, originally had a happy family, with someone who loved her wholeheartedly, but she did not appreciate her luck and turned to pursuing illusions to satisfy her own desires. In the end, she and her family were ruined. The author of this novel repeatedly declared, "Madame Bovary is me," but more correctly, we all have been and are Madame Bovary. We often think that life is full of regrets and relentlessly pursue desires and expectations, and we often forget and ignore the happiness and beauty that are already around us. The American scientist Moore said, "A man traveled all over the world to find what he needed, and when he returned home, he found it." True happiness is always with you in every moment of every day, and in every moment that your heart knows to cherish the present. Therefore, cherish the happiness that you have in your hands. Please do not hold on to happiness while also looking for a better happiness. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If this video is useful, please share it with those who need it. Don't forget to give me a like, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to watch the latest videos every week. Again, thank you, and see you in the next videos.